What's going on with everybody? It is your boy Eric, aka Young God, coming to you live in the Pink Dungeon, giving it to you real raw rugged, and I am back in here with another review. This is not an album this time. This is another Pink Dungeon film review, and we're back to talk about Oppenheimer. So I've been hyped for this film for about a year. After seeing the director, I do like Christopher Nolan a lot. He has one of my favorite films of all time, Memento. So after seeing that, then seeing literally anybody that was everybody in a film or TV show once upon a time, they was in that movie. You feel me? If you was that boy or you was that girl in a movie or TV show once upon a time, that nigga cast you for this movie. You feel me? Only white people though. If you was a lot of white people in this film. If you was that white boy or that white girl in that movie, that TV show, you was in this film. I think he had a little bro from Diver Wimpy Kid in here. Like I ain't seen him in a minute. So like he was just going all out, and I was interested. I would say that I piqued my interest. So fast forward, we are here to see the film. I watched it a couple hours ago. Quick disclaimer before I get into this, because I do want to say this. I'm a history guy, but I'll be lying to you. I'd be capping you down if I told you I was an expert on the Manhattan Project. I know the bare minimum. I know what it was. You feel me? I know what it did, and I knew what the bombs was called. That was probably the most inside baseball thing I knew. I think I knew what it was called. It was something like, I think one of the bombs was like Big Man. The one was like a little man, a little bruh, big man, something like that. I knew the nicknames was cool. You know what I'm saying? Whatever they called them, I knew they was hard. Like I remember thinking like, damn, that's hard. You feel me? Like that is hard. You know what I'm saying? Not the outcome. Not what happened. Not what the bombs did. You know what I'm saying? I do want to clarify that. What happened was a tragedy. You feel me? But whoever named the bombs was a hell of a nicknamer. But either way, let's get right into this film. I enjoyed this film a lot. I walked out thinking that this did not disappoint. I want to think, do I want to get into the criticism first? I think I'm going to just let it flow and just mix in my criticisms, the minor ones that I do have, and the praises that I have for it. I'm not going to go detail by detail, scene by scene, and break everything down. There will be a few spoilers. I do want to let you know that, but I'm not going to break down every scene by scene by scene. One of the first things that I realized was, wow, this is beautifully shot, which will tie into my next point perfectly. But man, one of my favorite scenes just from a aesthetically pleasing sight was that the one where they're like riding on horseback, and it looks like just a beautiful background, mountains and hills. It looks like what I would imagine Montana or Wisconsin to look like. It was so beautifully shot, and that was one thing that stuck out. And my next point that I was talking about is that, wow, you should see this in an IMAX, which really should be my first point. I know a lot of producers or directors or, hey, man, you got to see this in the movies. You got to see this in the movies. And like, nigga, no, I don't need to see Welcome Home Roscoe Jenkins in the theaters. You feel me, bruh? It ain't no reason I had to go see, you feel me, Are We There Yet? Part 2 in the theaters. I just didn't have to do that. With this, though, you do, because two things that I realized was the visuals were beautiful, and you can't captivate that if you're not in the IMAX. And the sounds, bro. I haven't been to the movies since 17. Whenever Split came out, that was the last time I've been to the movie theaters. So I've been watching a lot of movies from home. And boy, just some of those sounds were so important, because I feel like the intensity in certain scenes were heightened by just sound. You could close your eyes and you could feel the intensity, which I think is very interesting, because a lot of people may paint a picture. You could look at a piece of art. You could look at a Warhol, and you could feel, you're probably not going to feel Warhol. I mean, you're probably not going to feel intensity from a Warhol painting. This is the first person that came to my mind. But you look at whoever painting, you know what I'm saying, a Van Gogh painting, you may feel depression, or you may feel schizophrenia, or whatever bro was going through. Because that boy, hey, bro was wilding. Bro cut off his ear and gave it to a prostitute he was dating that lived at a brothel with him. That nigga, that was a different type of brain. Chris Nolan, do a movie on that nigga. That boy, that nigga say, you know what? First of all, I'm gonna date a prostitute, and then I'm gonna cut my ear off for this prostitute and give it to her at this brothel I live at with her and her 2 kids. That nigga, that was on different type timing. But either way, you look at that and you can feel the intensity, but that's with visuals. I thought that Christopher Nolan did a really good job building intensity and anxiety inducing feelings and moments with just the sound. For example, one of those sounds being probably one of the more iconic scenes in this film is the one where they're testing the bomb, and it's nothing but silence, 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 and then a boo, and then it goes off. You know what I'm saying? And it was very. And nigga, I'm not gonna lie, but I kind of jumped. Oh, you feel me, man? I kind of jumped a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So that was very cool the way they built it with sound. When he's giving that speech, oh, that's probably one of my favorite scenes in the film, where he's giving a speech after they drop the bomb, and he's nervous, and there's shaking going on in the background visually. The audio is nervous. Then the visual effect where the girl's skin is pulling off as if she's in the atomic bomb, and he's nervous. He doesn't know what to say in the speech. He's trying to hype it up, but he feels bad. That was really good portrayal of just like human confusion, and not even confusion, just anxiety, I guess, inside of a human. So I thought that was really, really good. But there is a downside to the sound, because I don't know if my theater got a bad mix, but bro, I could not hear certain dialogue in this film. There were certain times where I had to, what are they saying? And I was hoping that I went missing nothing key, but it was hard to understand certain words they were saying because the audio was mixed very weird. I don't know if I'm alone on that, but that was a little that was interesting to me. It was a fat nigga going crazy next to me, bro. It had a big popcorn bowl, bro. But he eat so good, he almost dropped it. Drank like, bro, going. I often ask him, bro, you understand what they saying? But hey, brother was grubbing beside me, so I ain't even want to bother that man. But yeah, that was one of the critiques. I guess another critique while I'm in this bag is that, am I the only one who had a trouble sometimes in matching faces to names? So like they'll be like, oh, Tillman did it. Tillman or Johnson. And it's like, who is that? Like, I feel like they weren't established enough to just be going on last name basis. I don't know who Tillman is. I don't know who Johnson is. Like, it was a little confusing sometimes. There was that. I thought the Albert Einstein appearances were, I'm not gonna lie, they were kind of funny, because Albert Einstein kind of seemed slow. Like, he kind of seemed like a slow, smart nigga. And that was interesting. I don't know if that's how he was. You know what I'm saying? If I'm not mistaken, I think he might have had Asperger's. I don't know. And I do know certain people with Asperger's display that differently. So maybe that's how he was. But man, I was like, I might need an Einstein movie. This nigga's electric every time he came on. Every time he came on the freaking screen. So there was that. But man, there was some good stuff in this film, bro. From, like I said, from the shots, like I said, those couple scenes I brought up. The communist thing were interesting because, bro, Oppenheimer, a guy, an absolute nerd. I mean, this guy is freaking making atomic bombs. You know he's a freaking geek. And boy, that boy was getting them. You feel that boy was catching them, but he couldn't stop getting it, bro. That nigga had a whole girlfriend. This nigga cheating, bro. You know what I'm saying, bro? Always with some communists. You feel me? That boy was messed up by commie coochie. But I said, is commie coochie like that, boy? Hey, is commie coochie like that? I was like, hey, man, if it's like that, man, I must be missing. Let me move to China. You feel me? Let me move to the Communist Republic of China if it's like that. But yeah, I thought that was interesting, man. But either way, his girl, what was her name? Kitty? But she'll ride or die, bruh. Nigga was cheating on her. Nigga was doing this. He was making her mad. She was rocking with him. And this is how I knew she would ride or die. It wasn't even the fact that she was staying with him when bro was really messing up. It was when old dude, I forget, it's the nigga name it sound like Tillman. I think it's already T. I forget. Dude with the heavy accent, he was teaching him. He was one of his students, I think, at first. And he basically like kind of turned on him, was like, hey man, bro, I don't know if bro could be trusted inside the little meeting. And he told her about that. And she was like, you shook his hand? Man, I would have spit on him. I was like, okay. But then, everybody got a tough talk. They seen him years later. Oppenheimer shook his hand. Old Kitty seen him. She, man, you get out of here. She shaking that man hand, bro. Like, you spit on him. I was like, man, you need a kitty in your life, man. Shout out to Kitty. But yeah, I was entertained by the romantic escapades of Oppenheimer. I was like, how is this dork getting all these girls? This is amazing. But shout out to him for that. One thing that I thought was interesting that I learned after the film is that Nolan said that the black and white depictions in the film were the objective scenes, and the pictures in color, those were the subjective scenes. So I have to really go back and look because I would feel like it was flip flop because I feel like a lot of the meetings that they were having were in black and white, and I would think that like those would be kind of like the subjective because they're like trying to argue each other points, so that would be subjective. I don't know, I would have to go back and look, but I thought that was quite interesting. One of my favorite scenes was when he met Hoover, and that was pretty funny because the nigga Hoover, he thinking like, man, you did your thing, and Oppenheimer like, bro, I don't really like what I did. And the way Hoover said Nagasaki, you couldn't say it a more racist way. He said, "So you telling me the people of Nagasaki?" He said Nagasaki. I was like, oh, this nigga here, boy. I know he dropped nigga on a regular. You hear me? And then when they was escorting Oppenheimer out, man, he said, get this crybaby out of my room. If he was black, he would have said, man, get this crybaby ass nigga out of my room. That's what he would have said. So I was like, man, Hoover was a wild boy. I would say shout out to Hoover, but Hoover probably wouldn't shout me out. So there you go. But yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite scenes. I wrote down some more stuff. Um, when the girl said, "I like the girl, the Kami Coochie," he just couldn't give up. I forget her name, but she said, "I like my wiggle room," and she was wiggling, and she started wiggling on bruh meat. And I was like, "Okay, that was a very crazy transition." She's like, "I like my wiggle room." Then next thing you see, this nigga getting his meat wiggled on. I was like, "All right, that's interesting." But like I said, man, there's so many people just from top to bottom, from Florence Pugh to freaking Rami Malek. People should know Mr. Robot is one of my favorite shows of all time. So every time you see Rami Malek on screen, I'm hype. I'm like, oh, look at my boy. What are you finna do? Man, this nigga was getting holed by Oppenheimer. Look at this pencil. He just kept smacking his pencil out of his hand. I'm like, bro, why are you little bruh in this bad? Every time I'm like, okay, so we not Rami Malek. This scene is, or this movie is so stacked. We not finna get no Rami Malek talking scenes. He did get a very long one where they're in the courtroom talking about everything, and that's how stacked this film is that, you know what I'm saying, you don't even get too much Rami Malek, who I love. So he did very, very good in his role when he was explaining everything. But yeah, man, this movie is really, a lot of it is split between Oppenheimer getting yeah, it's like a deposition almost. I don't know, I forget what they exactly called it. And the other bro, I forget his name. Like I said, a lot of names didn't stick in my head, and I didn't write everybody's name down. But brother, he was running with at first that flipped on him. It's split between him, like in a committee of judges, and then you got what's the name, almost like in a deposition hearing type of thing to see if he'll get his like security status reinstated, because they was just on some, they weren't really rocking with him because after he dropped the bomb, and he's like, man, I don't know what I should do. I killed a bunch of people. I didn't want to do this, which it was interesting because it did seem like the bro that was arguing with him in the building, he was like, bro, didn't you pick Japan to get bombed? And I was like, you make a good point. I know he the bad guy, but you feel me? The bad guy's kind of making good points against Oppenheimer. So it was not confusing, but it was just like, man, I get it that he was probably brainwashed and kind of corrupted maybe to do that, but it was kind of like, bro, what side are you on? I feel like Oppenheimer was low key playing both sides of the fence a little bit. So just complex guy, complex situation. Nothing in the history has ever happened like that before, so I get it. But yeah, man. Once again, very, very great film. If you want to see this, I would beg you to watch it in IMAX. Don't wait for it to come out on demand or whatever on streaming. Go see this in theaters. You will get an experience that you can't get anywhere else. And I sound like I'm working for Christopher Nolan, but I promise you. But yeah, one of the best films of the year. I enjoyed it a lot. If you've seen it, if you plan to see it, let me know what you think about it. Until next time, I say what I mean what I say. Haters gonna hate, and players gonna play, man. Yo, holla at your boy, no man.